Hi, this is Creative Conversations powered by Create Birmingham. And I'm Tanya Trotter. I'm the communications specialist at Create Birmingham. And today I'm joined by Morgan and Duquette Johnston. Morgan is a fine artist. She's a very talented painter. Duquette is a musician, a long, illustrious career, both based right here in Birmingham. They also are the owners of Club Duquette, one of the, I guess, coolest stores in town, who definitely hold true to supporting small businesses, small brands, unique and interesting finds, sustainable standards, and they have been doing so much good work in our community recently, and I'm so excited to chit chat with them today about all of the things you guys have been doing. Hey guys.
Hi, thanks for having
us. Well, thank you guys for making time for us today. I want to touch first on some work that you've been doing recently with one of the brands that you carry in your store. The Clary Collection. You guys made a really generous donation recently to UAB, donating Clary Balm to nurses and doctors there. And I just want to hear a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, so in our family, we have several immediate family members who are frontline workers. So we've been hearing for a couple months about what the realities are in the hospital. You're wearing the PPE, personal protective equipment, for incredibly long hours. You're washing your hands dozens of times. You can't take off your mask to take sips of water, so you're dehydrated. You get these lines on your face. Your hands are cracking. And, you know, on top of all the other risk and inconveniences and difficult things they're going through day by day, to have, you know, skin problems, you know, difficulty as an accessory to that, we thought, okay, what can we do in a very real way to express gratitude, to show gratitude, and to give them something that would be really usable. And an incredible friend and customer of ours came to us and wanted to sponsor something. So we got to partner with a private donor, and we're able to take 30 gifts to the nurses of UAB. It happened to be National Nurses Day, which was just kind of crazy and
just coincidence. I didn't even know until we were talking that it was National Nurses Day.
Yeah, so we got to meet up with the lead nurse educator at UAB in the parking lot of the Chevron outside of the hospital, and wear our protective gear, some bandanas that we make. And, you know, she came down in her nurse's situation, and we were able to share that with them.
And Clary Collection, Jen from Clary Collection has always, she gives a lot of product to families who like have kids that are going through chemo, and adults, whatever it may be, that are in hospitals. We've seen her donate so much before and give so much back. And we know the product because we use it every day. That's our shop. That's everything that is in our store or on our website. We use, we carry it because we love it, and we love the people that make it. And so with Jen, like the Clary Balm was just a real obvious, like, hey, this is it's a small token of appreciation we can show to people that are putting themselves aside every day to go out and take care of people, and not knowing what could happen to them. So it was just a small gesture, and I hope we can continue to do it and do it again and do more, you know.
That's great. You mentioned that everything in your store are brands that you love and support and use personally, and I definitely have gotten that sense walking into your store many times. You guys are so passionate about everything you carry, and I know now you're focusing especially on smaller brands who need a little more support right now. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so for business reasons, like you never, like it's hard to be like, okay, we have to stop this order. We can't bring this in right now. but we also have to make sure that we keep our business afloat, our family fed, our employee taken care of, and still be able to give back. I mean, we wanted to make sure that we could be like Venmoing waiters that I don't even know just through a website that would refresh their names and PayPal, Venmo apps. We wanted to make sure that we could take care of ourselves and others. So that makes a hard decision of, okay, like we're not going to place huge denim orders right now. That's something we'll look at and talk with Levi's and see what kind of partnerships we can do with them. But we know that most everything in our store is another small business. So we decided to focus on our in-house items and other small businesses, like our bandanas. When people buy those, it supports us. It supports the small sewing factory in LA we work with, and the product developer there. It supports the printer that prints all of them. Our T-shirts, it supports our printer. It supports us. You know, and then others like Ursa Major out of Vermont. It's owned by a husband and wife. They're another small business. Alder, New York. Our friends there, like.
Our candles are poured by a
our
dear
candles
friend
are
and
poured
neighbor
by Jake
over
and
at
Woodlawn. So like every time people buy Club Duquette candles, it's supporting, you know, Bungalow and Jake and Great Bear. So it ripples out, and I love being able to tell that story and let people know, like, hey, you're not just supporting us, but when you buy from us,
we can literally tell you who else it supports.
Yeah, I can literally give you the supply chain of who it supports, and then shipping all our online orders. It helps. We ship most everything goes through the U.S. Postal Service, and so it supports them. And we wouldn't be able to offer free shipping without them. And they meet us, like, because we're not at the shops. Our mail carrier, she will meet us wherever we need to and pick up all of our packages. Or our neighborhood guy here in Eastlake picks them up from our home. And that just has been the priority for us, is to make sure that we can help keep other small businesses going, not just ourselves.
I think that's such a great example of how our community has worked together during this time. It's been really encouraging from my perspective to have these conversations with creatives and people who are contributing to the city, and see how these people are partnering together to do good work to support the brands and small businesses they believe in. And I know that there's so much support is needed, but I've been really encouraged to see what the response has been locally. Have you felt that from your clientele?
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely. People message us all day, every day, like, hey, are y'all good? And we're like, we are so awesome. Like, we are so fortunate to be a real skeleton crew, like mom and pop and our employee who we've been able to keep on with us, even though the shop's been closed. And, you know, I think we all know the realities of the bad parts of what this time means, what it could mean, what could happen, what has happened. But there are ways that this has gotten us so much more in touch with like what real community is. And that's always been at the heart of our company, at the heart of our family and what we do. We hold really tightly the values of family and community. And if in all of our decision making, if it doesn't hold up those values, we're not going to do it. So I think when you operate from a place where you really are putting people first, the universe supports you, your community supports you, and even though there are going to be hard times, no matter what, it's just an inevitability of this existence. You know, there's sticking to the course and knowing that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yes to everything you just said. And like all this is brought up. I've had so many thoughts about a panel I was on earlier this year, or Morgan was on some panels at a slow fashion symposium in Atlanta. And I talked about the need for like the global supply chain is like not great as far as like for sustainability and so like for not just fabrics in the earth, but for us as people too. And all this happening and shutting down, I think, has made everyone realize, like, okay, what can we get within our own community?
Yeah.
And from food to clothing to soaps, whatever it may be. So my hope is that, okay, this is like really tough time. You can either focus on the negativity, or you can try and fight through all that, which is not easy. We all have our days. So like yesterday was our day of like, oh my God, we're exhausted. I can't think.
Cancel it.
Like we just kind of canceled the day. But like my hope with this is that on the fashion side, more manufacturing pops up in regional areas and local areas, because you're not going to always be able to rely on something coming up from like, you know, from Vietnam or Japan or even California. So yeah, I kind of lost track of my thought there.
It's okay.
Community. So like for us, community, it's local and pretty global. But my hope is that through this, more people will lean harder on their communities and take care of each other.
And that it uplifts micro communities within a larger one. Bringing back skills, bringing back jobs, especially in manufacturing. And I think we see evidence of the potential there by the really quick pivot a lot of people made in starting to make masks for good, and then for supplemental income too. I'm a big believer personally that people should get paid to make their mask. You know, it's an incredible viable income, and sewing is such an incredible skill that we had really lost touch with in the past generation because of overseas manufacturing and outsourcing. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Letting us know a package has arrived. We also have a 2-year-old here at home with us. We've been really terrible home educators, and his learning is happening in our guest room, which is now our shipping facility, as he stamps and counts bags.
Those are real world skills.
Really?
And he does demand a fair wage, and you know, so we're good there too.
Well, he's being trained for the important aspects of entrepreneurship. And there's nothing, I mean, I think we're all kind of juggling, you know, how to work and how to parent and how to teach at home right now. I know that I have not felt so dumb trying to navigate 3rd grade math homework. So
the funny thing is 3rd grade math keeps coming up with a lot of people I know. Like
that's
everyone,
fractions, right?
Like you're not the first person that has talked about the 3rd grade math. Like what?
Yeah, it's integers, it's fractions and number lines. It's been a long time, almost 30 years since I did that. So
well, thankfully kindergarten, so it's kind of like it doesn't totally count, right?
Yeah. It won't go on his transcript. So you were talking about your shipping facility, which is the guest room. Your brick and mortar has been closed, but you still have and you always have had e-commerce as part of Club Duquette. And so one thing that you had mentioned earlier was that you brought all the inventory into your home, and you really are all in-house right now. I have
literally,
yes, with an intern. So I have gotten a question from Meg in our office about the bandanas specifically, the limited edition bandanas, and when they'll be in stock again, because apparently.
So supply-wise, our supply chain, we knew that in various respects it was probably going to break down with a global pandemic. And there did come a point where fabric from Japan and the bolts of fabric from North Carolina also were not available. So our sewing factory, like we couldn't get the fabric to go to the sewing factory in LA. The sewing factory was closed down. So even if we had it, and our bandana guy called us and he's like, yeah, we did like one final run, maybe at the beginning of the pandemic, and it sold out in like less than 12 hours. It was amazing. And then our bandana guy called and was like, so I have like this random stack that I've just kind of like multi-printed on. Do you want to do something? And so he multi-printed, he like well, it's not screen, it's discharge printing. So he printed it a third time. So it was like all these layered colors, total insanity. And he sent us 30 or 40 of them.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll have like the crazy
yeah.
multi-print again. Maybe we will, I don't know. But we've ordered, some sewing has resumed. So we've bulked up what we're ordering, and I have 800 that were just cut and sewn, 800 to 1,000. I can't remember the exact. So we'll be stocking up, and then we're also partnering. There's a special project we're going to work on with the bandanas with another friend in Los Angeles that is he's a legend. He's literally a legend in the skateboard world, fashion world. I'm excited because it's just a continuation of what we've talked about. Like, once we do our special project with him, it will be 4 or 5 small businesses that all can get paid to support their families from one project.
And what's so cool too, it's like one of those crazy full circle. I feel like all of us are having these moments of reflecting on the past few years. Can you hear us, Tanya?
I can hear you guys. Fine.
You're a very apt listener. I thought you were frozen.
Oh no, I'm just listening. I can stay very still.
So I think we're all having these moments of reflection where we look back on the past like 6 months or 18 months and we're like, oh, this totally makes sense now that this time has played out. Like, oh, that makes sense. So we were out in the middle of the high desert in California 3 years ago. And we meet this guy we're talking about, George, and he's like a legend, like original Z-Boy, Dogtown, like LA skater, just amazing. And we met and we were just immediately like family, and it was kind of weird and we didn't know why. We were like, maybe we need to work together, but there weren't any opportunities that totally made sense. And now there's this special project that we're doing, and it's like, oh, so 2 or 3 years ago, like this really started unfolding, and now it kind of makes sense, you know? It was cool.
I'm always impressed, and I guess it's refreshing to see how you guys see opportunity in everything, where I think it's really easy right now for a lot of people to feel riddled with anxiety because there's so much we don't know. But it does something, and I think it's contagious too, when you see opportunity, you recognize it, and you're able to turn it into something positive. So on that note, positive news is that you're, for now, considering reopening your brick and mortar on June 1st, correct?
We're to see, since our state has reopened, we're waiting to see what happens with the numbers. And kind of through this whole time I've had what I consider 4 different contingency plans that at any given moment, in case of disaster, this is how we might take our next steps. So right now we are waiting to see what happens in the next 2 weeks, because like we said in another interview, for us being closed, it affects our business every day. It affects our family. It affects our community. But if being closed could potentially save one person from contracting the disease, or even one person from dying from it, we would close our business. We would keep it closed forever. I mean, that we would never, ever take a risk that would compromise the well-being, the livelihood, the family of someone else.
Yeah, and so, I mean, we're going to be cautious. It'll be different. We're not going to come back the exact same that we were. We're not going to do 7 days a week. We may not even do 6 days a week. It may be limited. It may start with a little curbside. I mean, because there's some products that we've sold out of, we haven't reordered. So if you walked into our store right now, you would be like, crap, there's nothing on the shelves.
Because literally it's in our guest room.
Because it's in the hallway and in our guest room. But it's going to take us time to like sort of reset and re-merchandise and refresh so it feels good. But we're also just going to kind of test the waters and see how we feel comfortable and how our employee and how Natalie feels, because that is a priority. I mean, but Natalie and Morgan also have had autoimmune issues, so we're cautious with everything. And for us, like, I know businesses have to do what they have to do, but for us, if one of us goes down, then we can't do e-commerce. We can't do the brick and mortar. We can't do any of it.
Kid, I mean,
Yeah, we can. So we have to be very cautious. But we are looking at how we can start to get back. But we're going to take it slow and steady and do what is best for our family, our team, our community, and not rush it. But we hope we can start doing something in June. You know, I'm just not going to set a date on it.
Right.
And we will, once we are open to the public, it'll be limited amounts of people that can come in.
Mm-hmm.
You will wear a mask in our store. You don't like it, don't come in. Sorry. That's just our deal. And yeah, it's a different world. And, you know, for us, seeing the opportunity part is that in our lives, we've been in really bad spots before, from bad decisions I made when I was younger, you know, like winding up getting in a lot of trouble with the law, to, you know, Morgan being so sick after our son was born, and us running out of money and being days away from losing our home, and friends having to buy our groceries. So we've been in really scary times. So I think for us, we just trained ourselves through the years of
resilient.
We got to be resilient. Where can we turn? What can we make? What can we do? Like,
and it teaches you the reality of community and what that means, and how we can rally around each other. You know, no doubt there are other businesses really struggling and closing, their families struggling, but there's community around. And if we can play any part in helping in those situations and encouraging others to do it too, we will all persevere through this. And my grandmother would tell me stories about growing up. I'm sure we have so many grandparent stories these days, right? Hearing her stories about growing up during the Depression, and they all lived on a farm, and the kids couldn't go to school anymore, so they all had to work on the farm. And the miners, they put extra greens in the miners, like little ration bags, because they needed the strength to keep going. And you know, I laughed at my mama telling those stories, and now I'm like, well, one day when my kid's grown up, and they'll be like, in the great quarantine, the quarantine 20.
Yeah, it's definitely, it colors the lens of looking forward, especially for children who are, I think, old enough to realize what's going on, and they'll be telling those stories of growing up during this time, and how I know my grandparents shared stories like that too, about like making really watery coffee just to have like a little flavor, but you had to ration out just enough. I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about your personal work, each of you, and how that's kind of evolved through this time too. Morgan, have you been able to spend more time on your art?
I paint all the time, like every day. It helps me not be a crazy person in close quarters with my family all the time. And also, like, I'm so encouraged by the fact that, like, some of the greatest artists in all of history, if you look at where they were creating art respective to what was going on in history, like the Spanish flu of 1918, Egon Schiele was doing all his work. Sadly, he died from the Spanish flu in 1918. So maybe a bad example, but like Hemingway during a war, and Fitzgerald during a war, and Picasso and Matisse, and tons of female artists who I can't think of necessarily. And that was so encouraging to me. It's like, you know, I'm stuck at home one way or another. I already paint. Why not just dive into it and really pour into something that helps me make sense of emotions I can't necessarily process, or fears that I have coming through me. And you know, thank God this is all happening in an era of social media when we can still be so connected in so many ways. I think a lot of people are encouraged by that. And you know, from the people who are patrons of my art, perhaps it brings them some joy to have some beauty around them and in their space. And to other people who've maybe wanted to explore creativity but didn't think they could, maybe it's encouraging to them. I mean, I've been painting a lot. It's great.
And what about you, Duquette? I know that you had been working, I think maybe the last time we spoke, you had been working on something big. Um, what's going on with your music?
It's frozen in time right now. No, the music, this whole thing is, no one knows what's going to happen in the music industry right now. The music industry over the last several years has gotten so crazy already, and then you throw this in where no one knows when touring will resume. Almost everyone has canceled all their tours for the rest of the year. I had just reissued a record, have a record that's done, have a little 20-minute documentary about my first solo record that we were ready to release. We're kind of not sitting, but paused. But through that, I've taken like the basement space in our house, and I'm setting up a new home recording studio. I've been writing a lot of songs. I always tend to write. I've not done the best with making time. I've made making sure my son is taken care of a priority above my music right now, which means some nights I'm tired and I want to get in bed and watch something silly or whatever and space out. But yeah, I have a new album that will be out. I have a documentary coming out. I'm getting to collaborate with what I consider is one of the greatest young photographers of our time for the album art.
Which we shot like days before suddenly the world
literally took all the pictures days before all this happened. And so we're sifting through those photos now and figuring out, but I'll be really excited when I can announce all that. But working with Single Lock Records is great because they're really patient and they know that there's other priorities in the world, and that, it's different. I have no idea what's going to happen, but
because the music industry has suddenly like changed radically, but there's not really a solution or new version of it.
Not yet, but that's where like opportunity and innovation happens. And I think it's a chance for a lot of artists like myself that create a lot of work to just start consistently putting stuff out. So that's why I'm setting up like home recording, because I'm not going to sit around and not write, not record, and not release. And through social media, like I think the beautiful things that are happening out of this dark time is that social media is becoming more social. Mm-hmm. People are sharing, connecting, building communities online. So your community doesn't have to just be within your own city. And especially since you can't get out and see people necessarily safely, and there's no music venues open. So I just want to use that.
It's more real too, like less produced or less, like that rosy colored lens version of everything. Like
it's pretty raw. I think it's pretty raw, and I love that kind of stuff. So I just hopefully next week I'm going to start recording a bunch of these songs that I've written, and they may come out before the new record comes out.
Well, please keep us posted. We're always excited for what's going on with you guys and what's going on in our creative community. And we would love to share any music that you're putting out there. It's definitely being able to share your creative gifts in this time right now has been so inspiring and encouraging to me and so many. And I think it'll be interesting to see how it evolves. Right now, everybody's writing and art, they say that some of the most innovative and creative and beautiful works come out of dark times. So again, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.